Okay. I would like to thank you for being here. Good morning and joining Beyond. For the first time, we organizing the leadership dialogue, trying to establish a fruitful dialogue between the Balkan countries and trying to see how we can exploit the opportunities of digital transformation and developing in our countries, and establishing also the right network in order to promote and support entrepreneurial minds that we have in this exhibition, and companies that we have from the region, on how to also take advantage of the opportunity of AI, of artificial intelligence, and technology in general for our region, in order to play a significant role in the new era of this new revolution that AI had brought in our life. I'm Michalis Stangos, I'm curator and co-organizer of Beyond. Beyond is the third year that is taking place, and I'm really happy to host you. Also, I'm really happy to welcome and host Stavros Kalafatis, the Deputy Minister of Interior, that is always supporting us in this process. As you know, yesterday the government resigned, and we're heading towards the second election of the 25th of June. So it's always also a small win, in the sense that we didn't postpone, because sometimes it happens when you are during elections, everything to be paused in this process, but with the support of you, of the companies that come, but also the willingness of the whole ecosystem to move forward and take advantage of Beyond, we are here, and we thank you for joining us. I would like to pass to Konstantinos Foutzopoulos, who's the curator and responsible for organizing the leadership dialogue, to welcome you as well.
Yeah, it's working now. Thank you very much, Michalis, Mr. Minister, Mr. President, distinguished guests, dear friends. Welcome to the inaugural Southeast Europe Leadership Dialogue that takes place in the framework of Beyond International Expo here in the beautiful city of Thessaloniki. Our region, the Balkans, is a region of remarkable diversity, cultures, histories, and aspirations. However, once again, today in the digital age, our challenges and aspirations intersect, requiring collective action. As we navigate these challenges and opportunities presented today, it is imperative that we come together as a region to foster collaboration, to exchange knowledge, and build a common vision for a prosperous and digital future. By forging strong bonds of cooperation, we can leverage the power of technology to address our common challenges, bridge the digital divide, and unlock the full potential of our region. And we can say that in Southeast Europe and in Greece, we have witnessed the transformative power of the digital technologies during the pandemic. Especially in Greece, our economy has experienced the benefits of e-commerce, of digital entrepreneurship, and innovation-driven growth. I'm sure that our state secretaries from the Ministry of Digital Governance, who are with us today, will elaborate on that. However, we must acknowledge that digital advancements have not reached every corner of our region, and disparities in digital access still exist and persist. So it is our collective responsibility to bridge these gaps and ensure that no one is left behind in the age of the digital revolution. To achieve this, we must foster an ecosystem of digital cooperation that is built on trust, shared values, and inclusivity. We must create platforms, exchanges, dialogues, and collaborations among government, civil society, academia, and the private sector in order to generate innovative solutions and sustainable approaches to digital governance, cybersecurity, energy security, data protection, and digital skills development. And dear friends, this is exactly the spirit and the vision of the Southeast Europe Leadership Dialogue, to act as a regional platform for cooperation and dialogue, not only during the Beyond International Expo, but also with meetings and activities throughout the year, not only in the city of Thessaloniki, but elsewhere in our region, in order to pave the way for a regional digital compact, as the title of our meeting today says. So, by embracing digital cooperation, we can build a strong foundation for a thriving digital ecosystem in our region. And I can just say, let us work together, hand in hand, to create an environment where innovation flourishes, where citizens are empowered, and our nations are in the forefront of the digital revolution. I think this is a message of hope, because this is exactly what our region needs: more cooperation, more dialogue, more synergies. Thank you very much for being here. As Michalis said, when we were planning this meeting, we didn't expect that we will be right after the Greek elections, that a caretaker government would take place as of yesterday. But in our region, there are always political developments, and we are happy that we are here today. Thank you very much. Minister Kalafatis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. At first, I would like to welcome everybody to Thessaloniki. Thessaloniki is the second biggest city in Greece. And I would like to underline the significance of this conference that is taking place here in Thessaloniki. I would like to inform you also that the digital transformation in both public and private sector is one of the top priorities in our government's agenda. And to be honest, we really made huge steps over the last 4 years, actually. And it's critical also to say that here in Thessaloniki, things are happening. And one of our main goals is that Thessaloniki is going to play a central role in the future as far as the new technologies is concerned. We are building a new ecosystem here in Thessaloniki over the last few years, actually, and along with the changes that are happening in Greek economy, it's very important for us, Macedonian Thrace and Thessaloniki, to be in the same path. And to be honest, we encourage everybody to be, to participate in that, because we really believe in synergies, actually. The whole world is changing, and I think that new technologies bring people together, and they create a new atmosphere, a new environment. And we really believe that in this new environment, which is not well known yet, and this is, part of the magic that is happening, it's very critical for us to explore this unknown future through the new technologies together. In that sense, Thessaloniki is going to play a vital role. We would like to be a catalyst in that project, and it's very nice for us, for me, to have you here these days. I'm sure that the conference will be very successful, and I'm sure that many important things will be said today. Thank you very much. Maybe I have to close it, but would you allow me, because I need to go to my office, because this is the 2-3 hours, the last hours that I'm minister now, because in few hours, in 3 o'clock, I have to leave the building actually. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. So because time is of essence, we will start directly with our first session, a new vision of digital transformation and regional development, shaping strategies for an open and secure digital future in Southeast Europe. We have a lot of speakers with us today. I would like first to introduce from Greece the Professor Dimosthenis Anagnostopoulos, Secretary General for Information Systems of Public Administration in the Ministry of Digital Governance, Athanasios Taveris, Secretary General for Telecommunications and Post in the Ministry of Digital Governance, former President Mladen Ivanic, former Chairman of the Presidency of Bosnia-Herzegovina, Minister Arberina Gavci, Minister of Education, Science and Technology and Innovation of Kosovo, Hrvorje Bujanovic, State Secretary in the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development in Croatia, from Romania, Eduard Mititelu, Secretary of State in the Ministry of Research, Innovation and Digitization. From Croatia also, Ms. Pomenka Duric, State Secretary in the Ministry of Regional Development and EU Funds. Last but not least, Anita Richter, the acting head of the Southeast Europe Division in the OECD, and Milica Vesovic, Program Director in the Directorate General of Human Rights and Rule of Law in the Council of Europe. We will start with an initial round of remarks, let's say approximately 5 minutes each, in order to have time for a discussion right after the initial remarks. Mr. Anagnostopoulos, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The microphone is working. And dear colleagues and esteemed guests, it's very nice to be here, and we congratulate Mr. Stagos for having the opportunity to really host this meeting, even though it's election time, and yes, some further developments have to take place. The objective of this discussion is digital transformation of the state, and also investments and discussion at the regional level. So we have to discuss digital transformation, but not at a very technical level. However, I have to say what we have so far achieved in Greece. We're kind of proud for our achievements in the last 4 years, and then say some key elements that have resulted in these achievements, to my opinion. What we have achieved is to go from almost 500 digital services to 1,500 digital services offered through a single portal, which is gov.gr. It's more or less a sense that relates to uk.gr, .gov, sorry, and gov.uk. And what this unique portal and gateway offers, that it offers a unique sense of use for all government transactions for both citizens and businesses. That is, we have a single sense of offered to each citizen and each business to go from a single transaction, a single service, to more than 1,500 services now. More or less, this is important not only for expanding the usage of digital services, but also for helping people that are of different age and background to be acquainted with all digital services offered by the state. And as a result, we moved from 8.8 million transactions 4 years ago to more than 1,200,000,000 transactions last year. And even more, which is more important, is that most of these transactions are not transactions, direct transactions, that is logins to electronic services, but are background transactions, interoperability transactions offered by state services that use data from different registries and interconnect all the systems so that the citizen don't have to provide any data, certificates, or documents by himself. Nowadays, this rate is 1.3. That is, it's one transaction where the user logs in, and 1.3 transactions that we perform for him or her to be serviced without his knowledge, but with or her explicit consent to be consistent with GDPR. We also have provided a single government cloud for all government systems. That is very important because we don't have different data centers across Greece and different ways for purchasing equipment. We have a single cloud which is responsible for hosting all information systems of the government. And now we have hosted already more than 650 information systems. So all new systems that we develop, all new projects, all new developments don't have to worry about purchasing equipment, maintaining equipment, or data centers, etc., etc. That also relates to the personnel needed to maintain different data centers. We also have promoted e-invoicing, both in the private and the public sector, which is crucial, to my opinion, for taxation, transparency, etc., and public the income of the state. And this is what we have done. Key elements for this is that we have decided to have a single way for authorizing citizens through the same credentials across all systems. We have a single interoperability center to promote interoperability, and not only to promote, but more to enforce interoperability between different sectors of the government. This is very important what I say. The third is that we have a single government cloud for different information systems, and also we have the single portal GovGR, which is very important for promoting the use of electronic services. Now, in terms of investments, it is important to discuss investments not across all sectors, but specifically in terms of data centers. We are very fortunate that in the past years, both Microsoft, Amazon, and Google have decided to invest in Greece. I think that a part of these investments will be performed here in Thessaloniki as well. We have 3 different data centers, which will be constructed by Microsoft till 2025, and will also be a cloud area for Google until 2030. Also 2 excellence centers by Google. I think that Mr. Stavros will cover better than me the Amazon investments in terms of telecoms and satellite, but it's crucial not only to create new jobs, but also to have the infrastructure be consistent with what the EU requires in terms of data hosted and maintained in the EU, especially in this part of Europe, because it's a part where no other data centers exist. And I think it's very important also in the general investment plan that has been implemented by this government so far, that we have investments in data center in Southern Eastern Europe. Last but not least, and also Digital Realty, which has also already invested in Greece. Which, last but not least, it's crucial for me to promote not investments, but also the way that we interoperate as citizens of Europe in general, to have a single way of interacting with both private and public entities through the same credentials. EU has, from 2020, has established a new project referring to a new digital ID, which will be in the form of an ID embedded in the digital wallet in each mobile phone, which will promote each citizen, resident of EU across all EU countries to be able to perform transactions in a unique way, in a consistent way, where he or she knows where his and her data are maintained, because so far we're not absolutely sure with this data, in a way that either to rent bicycle, as President von Leyen said, to rent a bicycle or to pay our taxes, we can do it in the same way, with the same credentials. This is of crucial importance for us, and I think that interoperability, cross-border interoperability, is important for all partners involved and present and being present here. That, from my side, as an initial remarks, and thank you. I'm very happy to be here with you.
Hello, good morning from me. Thank you for the invitation. This excellent place. Thessaloniki is in my heart since the last 3 years at least. After Demosthenis Anagostopoulos, it's hard to follow up. He's an experienced Secretary General and a very good friend. Digital transformation in Greece that took place in Greece the last 4 years was a decision and actually a command, an order that came from the Prime Minister, Mr. Kyriakos Mitsotakis. The one part of digital transformation was very well described by my friend Demosthenis Anagostopoulos. On the other hand, there is another part of digital transformation that has to do with infrastructure. Major component of any digital transformation in any country, regardless of economy or societal circumstances, is the telecom infrastructure and the status of this infrastructure, whether it's a modern one, it includes fiber optics, it includes FWA, if we want to be technical, it includes satellite communications. It's a range of the possible solutions that are available to each country in its region. So we started in this administration with, let's say, in quotes, the simple things. We moved from 4G to 5G. Greece, in December 2020, was the first country in the European Union that auctioned the 5G spectrum. This was done quite efficiently. It was an example for European countries, and we started implementing 5G and developing 5G antennas in Greece faster than we actually expected. But this was not the only innovation that took place in Greece. Out of the 5G auction spectrum, we provided a percentage of this auction to create an investment funds. You might have heard the 5G Festos funds, which actually using this budget to invest in companies, startups or SMEs that want to develop technologies that are related to 5G. So this was used as an accelerator of all the technological advancement that has to do with telecoms in Greece. Besides that, you very well know that implementing any technology and establishing infrastructures in any country, it requires a solid political and legal framework. So after implementing the 5G spectrum auction and the telecom providers started working in developing the antennas, you have to change the legal framework in Greece. This took a lot of effort from a General Secretariat, from the Ministry of Digital Governance. What we succeed in the end is to enable the possibility of the telecom providers from taking a license for building in antennas, 5G antennas from 2 to 3 years, we sent it down to 5 or 6 months. We will continue this process and reduce this period of time that need to take a license. In this way, we'll reduce the cost for the telecom providers and expand 5G coverage in the country much, much faster. But besides 5G technology that we all know it's the future, we see that a great benefit to our economy, not only in Greece, but European Union economy and our neighbors' economy, will be through satellite telecommunications. We took advantage of the RRF funds, and Greece invested €200 million in a microsatellite project. The main core of this project was to have 24/7 telecom coverage over our nation and probably also over the European Union. But again, we try to think thinking out of the box. We provided a percentage of this fund for SMEs, startups and universities in Greece to enable them to support the R&D, the research and development, in order to build their own CubeSats that they will send in orbit, thus giving a hand of help of the state to the SMEs and startups that want to enter the new space era. We are fully aware that new space is going to be the economy of the future. Space technologies, we already use space technologies, most of us, if not all of us. We do not know it yet. But in the future, we'll be in space technologies. Either this is telecom, Earth observation, everything will be based on satellites that are in low Earth or medium Earth orbit. Besides that, we have seen the need of sovereignty in telecom, and this need came with the most dramatic way from the invasion of Russia to Ukraine, where Ukraine had to base its strategy and its defense on satellite telecommunications. So this is a subject that we have learned in Greece a lot on how to procure this type of projects with the help of the European Space Agency, and this is knowledge that we would like to share with you even in beyond, from the R&D part to the actual implementation of the project part. All these actions have to be backed up by something that many probably afraid to hear, but it's a necessity, and I will say the word is cybersecurity. We want to live in a digital environment, but as my friend Demosthenis would like to, and I'm really proud that I have him here with me, we all want to live, thank you, we want to live in a safe cyberspace, safe for our economies, our societies, for the personal data of our citizens. So part of our responsibility, and my General Secretariat, is developing strategies and policies for cybersecurity, working with ENISA, working with the European Union. We have to work together, because I'm afraid to say so, cyberspace has nothing to do with the real space. There are no borders. If Greece or Croatia or Bulgaria or another country is not safe, then we're all not safe. Our power grids are connected. Our telecom infrastructure is connected. So it's a subject that we all need, it's a necessity to work together. The NIS2, that I'm sure aware that it comes in a couple of years, we have to implement NIS2, is going to be to provide us with the tools, but with great responsibility of protecting our infrastructures. I will close this first speech of me by saying that Greece, we are open in negotiation, discussion, exchange of know-how with our friends and neighbors in order to build a solid digital future, a cyber-safe future for all of us. Thank you.
From Greece to Bosnia-Herzegovina, President Ivanic, thank you. Thank you for being with us today. And we know you had a long trip. You stayed in Athens last night, but you are here. That's the most important thing.
It was a relatively long night, but it's okay. Politicians are able to be ready for all these things, even to speak about this issue, although it's not essentially, I asked myself when you asked me to speak, what can I say to the people which know about this more than me? So then I decided to give a typical political answer of that, to have a global picture in the region of all of that. And I will speak mainly about the Western Balkan countries, so non-EU countries from the region. Digital transformation, is it the topic for the countries of the Western Balkans, of the main priority? Answer is unfortunately no. There are a lot of reasons, but few reasons are directly linked with the governments and with political elites. This is not the issue for them. Politicians are animals who are there to survive and who will deal what they believe is best to be re-elected again. And digital transformation in our societies is not the topic, the first priority, not at all. Majority of the leaders are, let's say, old, not well prepared for the new technologies. Maximum is to see the news on the portals, and that's maybe the highest personal achievements of the majority of the leaders there. So even personally, they are not interested. even from the point of view to be re-elected, they are not interested. And because of that, I think that the region is not very much advanced in that respect. Yes, we have some results, but they are mainly because of some sort of the pressure or some sort of the support, especially by the European Union. And without that link, I think that this will be simply the topic which will be forgotten by the local leaders. So, if the region will be advanced at that, there is a need to have even closer links with the European Union, and there we have a problem. I am very long in politics, so in last, let's say, 20 years we have a message from Europe, our doors are open to you. In reality, they were closed. Honestly, I remember that in 2006 in a very high-level meeting, extremely high-level meeting of the European leaders, when they said, after Croatia, there will be no enlargement for the decades. Not decade, one decade, but decades. And I am quite sure that this will happen. I understand why. There is a fear of the European Union. What if the countries from the region will become members? How that will influence on decision-making process. They are not able to secure their stability within the region, so how they can be useful for us. And there is a very strong resistance, especially by the public, for the new enlargement. So, formally, the doors are open. Realistically speaking, they are closed. And I personally believe that the best way to overcome that situation is to pick few areas where European Union can consider the countries of the Western Balkans like members without the voting rights. And I believe that these areas are education, digital transformation, and all this linked with the green agenda. So basically that will be very concrete step to support the countries to change the attitude even of the political elites and the whole societies. It will not make difficulties for the European Union. It will be useful for the region, and it is not so costly for the European Union. And I believe that this will be very useful, especially for the citizens. Even this subject, without this sort of the approach, will not have a big change in the region if it's left only to the region. Isolated region will remain, unfortunately, the same, with the same internal differences, difficulties, tensions, and with a very old-fashioned leadership without the real change. So that's basically my main message, being a politician, about this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us here. I mean, speaking after President Ivanovic, I found that we have very things in common, not only because I'm not expert of digitalization, but in political aspect as well, representing the state that is still not member of EU. Anyway, I will speak as educator, representing the Ministry of Education, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to address you today in this Leaders Dialogue session, which make us thinking fundamentally way about issues and paramount importance. The dialogue is a solid platform to discuss our common issues openly and realistically, and it is also a great place to share experience and find solutions for common challenges. Digital transformation are upon our region and the world, and in unprecedented ways, and it is our responsibility, especially for us as policymakers, to handle them in safe and effective way in order to make sure their foundation are solid and sustainable. This is I know this is not easy because technology is changing at a very fast pace, so fast that we are often unprepared how to manage in the right way. In Kosovo, we are now in the course of doing exactly what is discussion essential. We are developing a new vision to transform our education, which hands-on and innovation approach starting with science and technology. Kosovo is lucky to have vibrant youth with a bright perspective, because they are smart, tech-savvy, curious, and eager to contribute to the global work phase. From a practical viewpoint, the digital revolution in Kosovo is well underway. We have almost 100% internet penetration around our country, which boasts the youngest population in the Europe, because half of our citizens are aged 25 years old or younger. Of course, these are brilliant odds of success in today's digital world with such a combination of youth and wide digital access. From a policy viewpoint, the digital revolution in Kosovo is in its infancy, and the digitalization of education is taking first steps. Our education strategy for the period 2022-2026 has digital education as one of its main pillars to focus on, looking into the future. In this view, in April, we organized a roundtable of digitalization of education with support from the UNICEF, and we had participation of relevant partners and stakeholders from institutions, EU representatives, and civil society. In practice, we are fully aware that digital transformation requires extreme caution and careful steering in terms of policies, implementation, digital infrastructure, digital literacy, and this process are just beginning even in advanced countries, and we welcome any recommendation and lessons from our peers. In Kosovo and with the region, we recognize the potential of technology and innovation to transform our economies. Engineering sectors such as information and communication technology, renewable energy, and advanced manufacturing present significant opportunities for investments and growth. However, to capitalize on these opportunities, we must first invest in the foundation of innovation, education, and human capital. In Kosovo, we also recognize the potential of technology and innovation to transform our societies. They open people's eyes and minds to new possibilities with facilitated effective communication, easier understanding, and a healthier human relation. In the context of Kosovo, I'm proud to announce that our ministry, so Ministry of Education, Science, Technology, and Innovation, has provided for the last 2 years over 2,300 scholarships to girls studying in STEM fields, recognizing the importance of gender equality and the need to empower the next generation of female innovators. By fostering an inclusive environment, we can create a diverse and well-rounded workplace that it is better equipped to take challenges of 21st century. In April as well, we hosted the first national conference for women and girls in STEM called STEMinist, and our aim is to be the traditional conference. The commitment to inclusivity is a cornerstone of our government program and the Kosovo education strategy for next 5 years. Collaboration is key to drive innovation and technology in our region, so we must work together to share knowledge, resources, and best practices, creating synergies that will propel our economies forward. Last September, we were delighted to host the Western Balkan Digital Summit, a regional initiative that, along with other platforms for dialogue and cooperation, can help us identify and address common challenges and leverage of strength for mutual benefit. Dear participants, the Republic of Kosovo boasts a very young and vibrant population, eager to learn and join the modern workforce. Our young Europeans are also eager to make friends and share experience, and that is one way to merge the fragments of our professional and social fabric. In a rapidly changing world, it is our responsibility to embrace the power of innovation and technology as drivers of economic development. The future belongs to those who can adapt, learn, and innovate. It is up to us to ensure that Kosovo and the entire region are well prepared to seize the opportunities of tomorrow, while also fostering a diverse and inclusive environment where all voices are heard and valued. In conclusion, I reaffirm of our commitment to education, innovation, and technology as precondition for future economic development. Together, we can unlock the immense potential of our people and our region and contribute to a bright future for all of us. And we are really willing to cooperate with all the states in region and not only. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. And from Kosovo to Croatia, Mr. Bujanovic, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody, to my colleagues, panelists, distinguished guests. I'll first start maybe from top-down structure. We are living in a very, of course, challenging time, but we never had one clear or two clear agendas, as globally we could say. So basically, despite, of course, the COVID, which, of course, and the Russian aggression to Ukraine and supply chain breakages, going from the offshoring now to the onshoring, nearshoring, but what we are now seeing, and we are in front basically of two biggest transitions of the economy. Green Deal, which is just if you put in the paper, 1.2 billion of the euros investments into the until 2050, and on the other side, digitalization, which are going hands to hand, and basically it's intertwined with the Green Zero, with the Green Deal, but also with the needs for the countries as ourselves to be there, because it's global, and if you are out, you're basically destroying your long-term competitiveness and productivity. So coming back, why this is very interesting, and I'm very grateful for the host to organize this event, because in this region, we are a combination here about EU members and also the good friends and the neighbors from the country, but we are sharing basically the similar characteristics. On one side, we are talking about the global industry, which needs scaling. On the other side, we are a smaller per se country with the elderly population going, elder migration is going, of course, the smart brains are going where the things are moving. So those challenges are similar to all of us, maybe except the Kosovo, it's a younger population, but as I said, we need also high investments into the upskilling, reskilling of the people, and the human capital is one of the leading needs and the constraints. That can only be evaluated through the investment, but for that we need the massive investments, which of course is long-term. I'm talking about education, start from the kindergarten, but for that it takes time. Political and the corporate terms are usually very short. Unfortunately, corporate now thinks, I'm talking about the public floating company quarter to quarter, politician tenures usually 3 to 4 years. So those gaps has to be filled. So we have to truly think about that we are in front of the biggest transformation globally, and we have put all our brains and energy together to have this long-term gap bridged by the needed massive investments, as we said. Coming to Croatia, I will be just very brief, because I think from the start, maybe just to explain that this regional and cooperation and digital is very valuable. Why? Because per country, we are investing and we are following this global agenda, which is of course the European agenda, as I said, the Green Deal and the digital, but we per country are always doing the same replication. Those are horizontal teams, horizontal topics, but they are not horizontal when we are cooperating between the member, except if you are EU members, and this one firstly is very valuable to exchange the best practice, think about what we did good, but even more what we did not good. From that you learn more even. So I think for the starter I will stop here.
Thank you very much. And from Croatia to Romania, Mr. Mititelu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I will start saying that digitalization process is not just about technology. It's how we see our businesses in this area. It's how we empower the people, and it's also about digital skills. And more than digital, this part of digitalization, we need to talk about collaboration. And I will start with the collaboration with Greece. My first official visit was in Greece in October, and I went back in Romania with an idea. I saw an app in Greece and of scanning the receipts and seeing if that cash register is connected to fiscal authority. And we started to develop it. We are in the testing period of that app, and we hope this week to launch it. And that was, for me, that was a good practice for sharing know-how in digital area. And I think it's time to present also our steps in digitalization, but until then I will continue with another part of collaboration, not just in European Union, because we are collaborating now with Republic of Moldova. They are very advanced in digital transformation field. They have apps based on APIs. Their apps are interconnected. They are an example for interoperability. They set the API as a standard, and for us, that was an example of collaboration between an European Union country and non-European Union country. And actually, last week we had a technical hackathon in Romania with them, and we had great results. Why? Because in this part of Europe, we need to say we have an advantage. We have a technical mind, we have a technical education, and we need to take this advantage in our digitalization process. We have an educational system based on STEM competencies, and that's an advantage for us. And we need to take it in our technical digital transformation. Also, on sharing the good practices, in Romania on the cybersecurity field, as you said in your speech, we are happy we launched the European Cybersecurity Competence Center. In our collaboration with the European Commission, in the 9th of May, on Europe Day, we launched this center of European Commission, which will prepare the European cybersecurity programs for all the countries, and we'll have the strong collaboration with national cybersecurity centers. Also, we advanced on the legislation part, because after the war started in Ukraine, we needed to prepare our legislation. For example, we had the law, we restricted the use of Russian antivirus in public institutions, and we'll continue to secure our public institutions, because it's very important to have a trust between us and the citizens. Also, another important point are the digital competences. If we talk about basic digital competencies, there on our National Recovery and Resilience Plan, we have a program for transforming the local libraries from villages in digital competencies hubs. And they will be our ambassadors for digital competencies, and also our national post company. They will have this role of ambassadors for digital competencies and digital transformations. We both PDAs for them, for postmen, and they are doing great. They are a good practice model for us. Also, because in all the countries and the national recovery plans, resilience and recovery plans, we talk about cloud. It's in Romania we'll have a hybrid cloud with two components, one private cloud and one public cloud, with 4 data centers, and also with a marketplace for private companies where they will they will publish their apps, like private marketplace from Amazon, Microsoft, Google. And going forward to artificial intelligence, also we have a Romanian committee for artificial intelligence where we prepare the legislation, the ethical part of artificial intelligence, and also we have the first Prime Minister advisor based on artificial intelligence, Ion. And it was a great project. We prepared, in the ministry, we prepared with private sector, and that project is collecting data from citizens about how they see the government, and using the artificial intelligence, we prepared this data for the Prime Minister. I will finish my speech with something which Steve Jobs said. Innovation is the ability to see the change not as a threat, to see the change as an opportunity. And also I will finish with saying thank you for the invitation, and also saying thank you to Greece for our collaboration and sharing the good practice. I hope after this visit I will go back with another app idea. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mititelu. And from Romania, back again to Croatia, Ms. Duric.
Thank you. A big hello from me to everyone, thanking the organizers for my second round of participation in such an event in Thessaloniki. It is a great pleasure, and with great pleasure I accepted the invitation to participate this year again. I cannot agree more with everything that was said by speakers presenting or speaking before me. So I'll touch upon the thesis on exchange of experiences, best practices, and collaboration in the region, putting it in the context of Croatia being the youngest member state, entering its second full financial envelope and financial perspective, which means that we are now finally at the position to say we are fully participating and benefiting from everything that is given us as an opportunity for development and as opportunity for change, as my predecessor just quoted somebody smart enough to say it out loud. How does digitalization and innovation and all the changes that are happening around us, reflecting the regional development, as I am representing here the Ministry of Regional Development and EU funds? And from that perspective, I have to say that our focus since we entered the EU, but not only then, get more focus and more attention. How does it influence the investments and strategic thinking and I would say policy development focused on regional development, which in terms means offering equal opportunities for development to each tiniest part of our country, which is not as big as some of our neighbors. Using the grants offered through and available through the first financial perspective, we did start the huge process of digitalization. We did start planning how to build the backhaul network throughout the country, having a plan to reach every single corner of the country, offering equal opportunities to everyone, and then yet further on focus on building the networks that would enable connection to high-speed internet to all local self-government units. Well, now I have to say, be honest and say, easy said than done, for various reasons. So we had funds, we had opportunity, we knew we had a big problem which we wanted to overcome, but then you enter in a situation that all these things are not that, how shall I say, drastically heavy to be implemented in urban areas, whereas rural areas, areas without commercial interest of investors, of telecompanies, are staying left out, and we don't want to leave anyone beyond. So it did take a lot of efforts, a lot of adaptations, a lot of adjustments, a lot of changes, a lot of negotiation and renegotiation with the European Commission in order to not to lose the opportunity, but also be able to follow the digitalization speed that could be adjusted and transformed down to the ground, to the local level. And here we are now with all the global circumstances and changes that somebody else also today already touched upon. Here we are today using the recovery and resilience plan to finally foster and strengthen all the I would say, points or parts of the process that were not probably at the first, I would say, more intensive opportunity, maybe not touched upon as they needed, and that's why the speed could have been better, I shall say. So strengthening connectivity as a cornerstone of the digital transformation for both society and economy. My colleague has touched upon the economy. I'm here talking about society, about every region and every corner of our country, which then will act again as a transferring point for the rest of the region. And here we are today with implementing, and it has already implemented the administrative changes, the administrative framework, the legislation was yet again transformed and adjusted with the strategic planning being in place, finally being properly created and I would say in a network and position. And we are starting now with the plan to finally implement the 5G network within the few next years throughout the country. Investments are planned also and secured to cover the areas with no commercial interest, where already some, I would say, half of the existing local self-government units in Croatia are included, which means that within the few next years, we are going to have it finally covered. I'm not going to talk here about why it didn't happen during the first perspective the way we wanted, but just to mention the legislative framework that had to be done, but even beyond the property issue, I would say total transformation of the administrative points that were I would not say stopping, but slowing down the process the way we wanted, from the perspective of regional development and equal opportunities and equal development, which is then a precondition and prerequisite for talking further about the foreign direct investments or investment hubs or anything else of similar thing, which then again is now letting us or giving us the data that we have right now as Croatia, even though we invested a lot and scored quite positively and have positive trends on the DESI index table in many fields, like investing in people, in the human capital, having a sufficient or increased number of experts in digital field, we have dropped down few points or few ranks. Why is that? Because the infrastructural part has not followed the same. So this is now our key focus and key point, and we have to do it. Otherwise, we are going to have a rather urbanized and rather smart cities and urban centers. We have switched from 8 urban centers and investments in urban centers using the urban instruments in the period 14-20 to 22 urban centers, expecting to develop them, but yet there is this rural region that we have to cover in order to stop any other or many other consequences and trends that are, I'm sure, known or similar to all the region. I would just mention the depopulation and aging, and the region which definitely does not create conditions for future development, let alone equal development. And I will stop here so we can continue it from any other aspect. Thank you.
Thank you as well. And from the countries in the region to the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Anita Richter. I'm in charge of the work on Southeast Europe from the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and it's a particular pleasure for me to be here today because it's Southeast Europe is for us also quite a diverse region. We have Greece, who's already for many years a member country, but we also have Croatia, we have Romania here, also Bulgaria, who are currently accession countries or aspiring and in the process of becoming members, hopefully very soon. And of course we have the 6 Western Balkan economies with whom we work on a different mode to get the instruments, the best practices and the policies right, and you know, in also supporting the EU accession process at large. So, for example, at the OECD we have a lot of instruments, tools, databases, principles that member countries come up with to support the digital transformation. I'm not going to go into details right now, but since we're focusing here on the Southeast European Union, I would actually like to highlight in my presentation a few things that we do specifically in our division, focusing on the Western Balkan countries who do not have yet the full benefit of all the OECD tools, but we developed our own assessments and have separate elements of engagement through the work on the competitiveness outlook, through the SME policy index, where also digital transformation plays quite a key role. And I just wanted to highlight 3 key elements where we see the priorities should lie in for the Western Balkans, which is first of all is to addressing the gap in the digital skills. I think skills is really at the heart of everything. It's for the entire economy, all the citizens, businesses, everybody is involved here. And here we can clearly see that the share of the population with basic or above basic levels of digital skills remains way below the EU average. In the EU, it's about 54%, in the Western Balkans, only 36%, so there's unfortunately still a large gap that needs to be overcome. Of course, there are also larger discrepancies within the Western Balkans. So we always talk about it as a group of countries, but also within that, it's quite a heterogeneous group. Already over the years, we have fairly advanced economies like Montenegro, but then in digital skills. But Albania, for example, is on the bottom line with only 24% of population having basic or just above basic digital skills. So what you're suggesting in our work is to enable policies to better integrate the digital competencies in education curricula. And I just heard also from Kosovo that this is underway already. So that's a good outlook. And of course, policies is important. And I know with partially external pressures, a lot is happening on the policy front and the design of policies. What is often hindering and lacking is a proper implementation, which is also due to political commitment on one sense, but also the capacities of governments to implement all of these instruments and tools. Second priority area that we have identified for the Western Balkans is to support the digitalization of SMEs, particularly SMEs. They constitute the majority of businesses in the Balkans, and also contribute largely to GDP growth, to employment. But here again, I mean, we've noticed actually with COVID, one of the good outcomes is that e-commerce has actually picked up the here and there, digital efforts, kind of copying what is happening in the rest of Europe and the rest of the world, so following this trend. But nevertheless, the region is still lagging behind compared to the EU and OECD member countries. Just to give you an example, lagging behind in terms of adopting more advanced digital technologies into their operations. So here the divide is very significant. We have in the Balkans only 18% of enterprises that, for example, bought cloud computing services over the internet in 2021, compared to over 40% in the EU. Just to illustrate one of the examples how this is perceived. Nevertheless, what we've seen is as well that governments are implementing, have identified this issue as well. There are more programs in place, also financial instruments from international organizations, primarily from the EU. Nevertheless, uptake of those programs to support the transition of SMEs is still not as quick as it should be. Partially because there's little awareness, partially because they're also convincing SMEs that it will be beneficial for them, for their economic growth. But also sometimes there's a mismatch of what is offered and what is really needed by SMEs in order to obtain. And third and last point I would like to stress here is also looking at the government side. So the digitalization of public administration is absolutely fundamental in this entire process. We've seen progress over the last few years, and it's also recognized in international rankings. Just to give you an example, Serbia improved in the UN e-Government Development Index from 49 to 40th place. I mean, giving that it covers more than 190 members, it's quite impressive. Similar trend is seen with Albania. Nevertheless, what is more striking is in fact that the interaction of individuals using these services and interacting with public authorities via the internet is still much below the EU average. Again, some numbers here. The EU average is 60%, and only half of that is in the Balkans with 30%. So there, we see the trend in the right direction, but still a lot needs to be done. And a final point, just to conclude, besides focusing on these three priority domains, I would say a lot of supplementary elements come along with this that need to be taken in consideration. Is of course, we haven't talked about it yet. Digitalization is fantastic, creates transparency, makes things easier, but at the same time, we have to make sure that consumers are protected, privacy data is protected. There's a lot about security. We have not touched upon it yet, but this is an important element that comes across with this, and that our values to ensure human rights to ensure democracy is secured within the entire process. The OECD has put in place a number of tools and instruments that member states have to follow, and hopefully also the Western Balkans will continue to adopt them step by step. So this digital transition will be operated in a well-functioning manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And last but not least, Melissa Vetsovic from the Council of Europe.
Good morning, everyone. Warm greetings on behalf of the Council of Europe, and also big thanks to the organizer who just selected very important topic, probably the hottest topic of nowadays, and arrange all of this discussion in a very nice way where everyone is included. It is multifaceted discussion with many professions around. This is very important for every digital development and any digital innovation, which is basically our subject of discussion today. I will just zoom you swiftly what we are doing in the Council of Europe and what is available from the perspective of international organization who is dealing primarily with human rights and democracy. We are dealing on several instruments, and as it was mentioned through our speeches of previous speakers, in particular Mr. Staveris, that basically internet and digital technology has no borders. The same is happening as a reflection at the level of international legal framework. So I think that not only political will, as it was said, there must be profound and solid legal framework behind, and it is not going to be country specific, because in this transformation, sovereignty of state is seen in more flexible manner, meaning that international instruments such as what is currently being designed on the Council of Europe side is Zero Convention on Artificial Intelligence, which is dealing with use of AI, basically design development and use of AI in public and private sphere for the goods and services. From this convention, future convention, because it is in the design now and is expected to be ready by the early stage of 2024. All 47 member states are participating, and we are hoping that it is not only going to be convention for the Council of Europe, but also worldwide. The issue there is that basically intellectual services or services which are subject of digital sphere or digital innovation should become an international public goods and treated this way. And by this way we will basically take away borders and have an omni-regulation. I will illustrate just the layer of human rights which is coming through in this perspective when we are talking about use of AI and application. I was personally very impressed with the project that was mentioned by Romanian speaker, this AI advisor to the President's office, which is very innovative and so to say futuristic project, but on another hand there are layers of human rights which needs to be preserved and proper balancing ensured, in particular personal data protection there for all of this data scraping which is happening in such a type of the project. It is very important. It is also important there is no discrimination used or profiling. Also the freedom of expression. These are fundamental rights that are behind of any of these AI projects. Also, I will mention one project that is also can use as a kind of recycling in many other member states. We are dealing with judicial decisions which are basically needed to be anonymized and all personal data erased. So far, one of member states managed to produce machine AI software or let's say, the robot who is doing this on behalf of judiciary, and therefore enabling full transparency, because while doing this, all judicial decisions can be published on the site, and basically the transparency of justice and efficiency is becoming more closer to the citizens. I will tell you what is behind this project is that basically, why was such a project coming in the picture? It was that data scrapers and big legal companies are basically searching through judicial decisions and coming in the possession of the most biggest secrets, such as what is the cost of insurance, or what is the salary of somebody, or the very big things which is behind judicial decisions. And so on the other hand, they can, if they are not properly anonymized, they are the business around are to be developed. So from the Council of Europe side, I would say that we are expecting that a new Zero Convention on Artificial Intelligence will be worldwide use. From this convention is excluded the sphere of military use of artificial intelligence. So let me just facet one element. Military use of artificial intelligence belongs to cybersecurity, defense side. Council of Europe is also having the convention on cybercrime, which is known as a Budapest Convention, to which second protocol was adopted recently, and I know that Greece in February 2022 was signing the protocol. Protocol is about that basically all enforcement infrastructures, police, judiciary, and judges can work very efficiently and get into searching for cyber criminals, that cyberspace becomes less vulnerable and more legally compact. So this is from the side of the Council of Europe. Of course, we are having a specific panel on more specific topics. So I would like once again to thank you and to say that this multifaceted approach is the best, and digitalization cannot go without.
Thank you very much all for this first round of introductory remarks. I would like to open up the discussion. A first point from my side, and then we'll take also other questions. Something that all of you said is that we're very diverse countries, we want cooperation in the region. At the end of the day, do we have a clear agenda? And if yes, which could be some very specific points that we'll take out from this discussion as possible next steps? For example, in April 2023, the European Commission introduced the digital agenda for the Western Balkans. It's regulated by the EU Western Balkans ICT Dialogue Initiative, if I'm not mistaken. What does it practically mean? Does it help our region? And if yes, what can be done next? Any questions from... Yes?
Yes, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the comments and the actual organization of this panel. My question relates to all of your comments and the way I felt we're moving towards technology innovation in the region. It felt, especially from Greece, from the Greek side, I'm from Greece, so that's my point of view, that we're starting a bit from zero in 2019. The pandemic was an opportunity to push for digitalization, but in many ways, digitalization and innovation started from a zero. We just discovered a platform and the GovGR. My question is, how far do you see in your planning on technology transformation, digital transformation, how far ahead do you see, given the constant technological and geopolitical changes? For example, it was mentioned that the key to the region is its perspectives for innovation from its people, from its industry, but there are issues when Europe is a bit falling behind in technology industry and technology innovation vis-a-vis the US or China. On the other hand, Europe is leading on regulation, data regulation, technology regulation, digital regulations. So in your point of views for 10, 20 years ahead for the region, how far ahead do you see, and how far ahead can you plan, or do you plan currently for the challenges that you will have to face when the, let's say, technological war between the East and the West will spike, when we'll have issues on supply and demand for microchips, when, you know, the new wave of generations that will use technology even more, and we will need to upscale and we'll need to create more digital education, will be the reality that you'll have to face. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. So we can start with the second round. Mr. Anagnostopoulos, Mr. Stavridis, and
completely new era and new geopolitical field. I have to say that decisions and the way that you build up things was not a result of the pandemic. Plans were made ahead, decisions were already made, and laws were already passed from the parliament. And all these decisions that I mentioned earlier were taken before. But the pandemic, yes, it was a catalyst. And it offered us the opportunity to develop platforms and services for the citizen, for dealing with the pandemic, but it also gave us the opportunity to be innovative. For example, as we mentioned before, the cross-border interoperability, it is very important for us that Greece was the place that we conceived and presented the European vaccination certificate, which is a solid example, very, I would say, successful example of interoperability across European borders. And it was an idea that was first, initially implemented and presented here by the Vice President of the President of the European Commission, Mr. Michel, and the Vice President of the Council, and the Vice President of the Council, Mr. Schinas. So, and the Prime Minister, Mr. Mitsotakis, of course. This gives us the framework to conclude that whenever such cases are presented, we may have to face challenges, but also be innovative and do whatever we can to form better solutions both for our citizens and cross-border solutions. This is at the local level, but at the regional level, Balkan level, I would say that we are countries that we face common problems. Of course, we have common borders, and so both ideas and solutions may be of use to a neighbor of ours. That's why, with our colleague from Romania, we have the opportunity to exchange ideas, and I'm sure that the one concerning the app for checking receipts, which results in, I would say, taxation benefits, and for the public income, yes, this is very important. It's a small idea, but we could as well benefit from other ideas. It's very important to sit and discuss and exchange ideas. So we're much more eager to cooperate in this context. But also, at the greater European level, I would say, we also face common issues and common problems. And there are ideas and regulations that we have to pass and to ask ourselves which would be for the benefit of both European citizens, but to a greater extent, the citizens of the world, because Europe was, of course, and Greece was a pioneer in democracy, we invented democracy, that's for sure, but coming to a later stage, at this stage, we have to deal with much more important issues, such as the use of AI. Regulation is needed, and of course we have to compete with other countries such as the US and China, where such regulations don't exist, and this gives you, may give you certain problems in developing new technologies, but it also gives you the opportunity to think and present important frameworks for the future. How do we imagine that a European citizen, a model citizen, should be in the new era of AI, and which is the regulation needed or the constitutional, maybe, I would say, concerns needed to deal with such issues. Just one more minute. To me, the issue that we have to answer or to deal with is what President Ivanic said before concerning the use of digital transformation and how do we have to rely on it or perhaps invest on it to gain political gains. This is very important. If we consider the re-election of a government, yes, it's a crucial thing for every government. But on the other hand, if we may have short-term or mid-term benefits, this would come in this very, I would say, eminent agenda. So this government really invested in Greece in digital transformation. We moved from a bottom-up approach, that is, we chose problems that everyday life is faced, the citizen is facing in its everyday life. The most important, perhaps, of these problems. We tried to digitize, analyze, digitize, and simplify some of them, but digitization was a core issue. And then, based on this investment, we had robust and concrete and very important benefits within the first years of this term, of this government. To do so, we needed to have a way to somehow overcome barriers related to different systems from different ministries. That's why it was very important to promote interoperability through a single point, not letting each different ministry decide on the interoperability of its data. And you also need a framework to somehow make small projects and be flexible about funding them. But it was very important to have gains in the first 4 years, to think bottom-up, be very agile, that is, be very flexible, and have, of course, a very strict project management team to be upon not only the single Ministry of Digital Governance, but all other ministries that needed to create services and data to interconnect them all. That's my my remarks and my conclusions, because it's a very important issue what you stated. I think it's very, very important to me.
Okay, I will try to summarize my thoughts. I agree with you that we have to take care of the challenges of the future. Yes, it seems that China and the United States are ahead in technological use of artificial intelligence, among other things. To quickly answer to the question whether Europe should reduce its demands for the legal and regulatory framework, the protection of the citizens' rights, my answer is no. Europe should stand in its position. This is the correct way. There is no other way. I mean, this logic that we should surrender part of our personal and sensitive data to the benefit of technological and economic advancement, this is against democracy, and Europe is democracy. So we cannot have elasticity in that part. On the other hand, we should invest in ways that will provide companies in the European Union to have revenues. Because in the end, we want European citizens to work in the European Union and have a good life. The main challenge that I see for the future is the regulatory framework that will be created and is under development to be created in such a way, in a dynamic way, between legal experts and technology experts, so as not to close doors, but to protect, first of all, protect the sensitive data for citizens, but not close doors. And I will give a very brief technological example. Artificial intelligence, on its basis, it's mathematics. Artificial intelligence algorithms are not entities, are not something alien to this planet, it's mathematics. And in the sense that mathematics and artificial intelligence provide us with very fast decision-making processes, because this is it. It will not replace human entity. It provides us information in a better way, in a faster, in a more efficient way. In the same way, because it's mathematics, it can provide us with numbers qualitatively and in quantity, not quality, how safe are our data. Recently, okay, the last couple of years, I have seen that there are mathematical methodologies which are called differential AI and federated learning, that they do exactly this. They can analyze our data, public data, and they can provide us with numbers how safe these data are to be used. So there are tools, mathematical tools, not legal, not political tools, they're mathematics. And I believe we can all trust mathematics because the algorithm on Earth will be exactly the same algorithm on another planet in the same universe. So this is a basis, a very good basis for discussion. The legal framework should get closer, let's say, the legal personnel and the technical personnel, the mathematicians, the guys that develop the algorithms should come together, should come closer to begin with. Because there are solutions, technological solutions to protect our sensitive data, and we can use them. We can definitely use them. And this is not just a theory that I'm telling you now. In my general secretariat, we have made already 2 studies, both for federated learning and differential AI, and how these 2 methodologies, mathematical methodologies, can be used to protect sensitive data. The tool, our weapon, if you want to say, for the future of the European Union, will be to take advantage of all mathematical tools that are available within AI. We do not need to invent something new. We just need to cooperate. That's it.
President Ivanits, and then we...
Not too much to say about the details and the expert opinions, but generally speaking, I think that it's very difficult to predict in which direction everything will go. At least for my generation, that's very difficult to predict. We even have difficulties to live with the current level of the digitalization, and I can imagine what will be in 10 years. So for me, my generation, this is not possible. For the younger generation, definitely it is, and I think that the whole structure, especially speaking about the government, has to think about that, and we really have to have, let's say, top leaders ready to open the space, and then real experts to do the concrete steps in a lot of areas. But there are also some things which are quite, let's say, difficult. If you don't need approval to be face-to-face to the bureaucrat or politician, less chance for the corruption. And this is something which is deeply rooted, especially in some parts of the region. So decision makers are not, you need, how to say, leaders with a vision and not a typical normal leaders in the region in order to have this huge reform which is in front of us. And I also believe that there is a need for the regulation. I'm very worried about some of the developments in the future. I'm worried about that because I think that the society is going in a quite risky ways. Not only in a misuse of the data of the people, but also the way how the society is organized is completely different and very, very, very difficult for me to understand. You know, when I see the young people just sitting in a cafe and just not speaking. I was once day close to one table and there were two persons, they didn't speak at all, just doing that. I know that maybe in the future there will be no real teacher. There will be a screen, the best possible teacher in the world. Why to have average teacher? Why not to have the best possible just on the screen? But then I have a feeling about, I have a very fear about the essence of education. It's not just a knowledge. So I cannot imagine a situation that the computer will teach my artificial intelligence, will teach my, I don't know, grandchildren. So all these things, they are really big challenges. What is the future of education? Just one example. What is the future of the jobs? What will mean the workforces in the years to come? And if it is the truth that artificial intelligence can write the best possible scientific article relatively soon, then what is the future of science? Definitely. So there are so many questions, maybe too many philosophical questions, but for these questions we need really experts. They have to have a space to regulate that. It cannot be done just by formal political elite. So that's my way of thinking about these issues.
Minister Nagavtsi.
During the pandemic time, we have a situation that we faced with different challenges. In one way, we have the teachers who aren't prepared to teach from the distance in some cases. In other cases, we have the families that have more children and not of them, all of them have the equipment to participate in learning from distance. In few regions there are no internet, so there are not the same opportunities for all children. So as a government, what we are doing right now is that we plan the budget to equip all the schools and to give the same opportunities to all children to use the technology in their learning. In other hand, we know that it is very important to improve the skills of the teachers to use technology in their teaching. And in other hand, it's very important to see how to deal with these cybersecurity issues and with fake news and all information that they are around, and how to be prepared to help the youngest, especially, to use the technology in proper way. Because what we see now, a lot of the youngest, they use technology, but they spend a lot of time in, I don't know, in Facebook or TikTok, in other platforms that they aren't useful for them. So as a state, we have one situation that we have young students, young population that use very much and they are competent in using the technology. But on the other hand, we really need to take care that we offer all the resources to have the same opportunity to all the children and to use the technology in proper way. And yes, there are a lot of issues that we have to deal. in our state in Kosovo, there are few different ministries that they dealing with this. It's Ministry of Economy and Development, and then Ministry of Industry and Innovation. But for us, as a Ministry of Education, it is very important to make sure that the digitalization is used in proper way and in safe way for the children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bujanovic.
Thank you. So basically on the side now, we'll go into Croatia perspective. Of course, we embedded the RRF from European Union to our national development strategy, and as well also our resilient fund, national plan of the reform. Now basically going also to the strategy of the smart specialization. So in order to embed the green, digital, but also and to foster the innovation and R&D, for us truly important because we are lagging behind. Regarding maybe the issue of investment into the people, so we also started with increased efforts to upskill, reskill the elderly people and people who are currently, of course, because of the structure of our economy, we have the textile industry and many industries which lag behind, of course, in this competitive world sourced from the Asia. And 40 million euros we delivered also through vouchers to the people, so directly trying to put inclusivity into specifically this segment, which is very vulnerable. And we want to go further in that respect. Of course, on the other side, as I said, the human capital is the issue because we currently have near full employment of the Croatian economy. GDP is growing despite the threat of the recession and the monetary tightening, but still resilient, which is of course good, but on the other side, pushing us to be faster. The public side and our task is mainly, firstly, as we said, to put a stamp on the strategy, that we know where are we going, because if you don't know where you go, every goal then is the good. But we want to put the stamp of the vision that we are heading. That's, I think, our task. Our task is also to arrange the judicial and the legislative framework. Also to foster and help with the crowding in for the financing. Now, as I was in a ministerial meeting of the Compete on Monday, of course the concept is currently also one communication about long-term competitiveness of the European Union is truly also setting up the set of the KPIs, because if you cannot measure, then you just talk and wake. One of the segment is the private investment, but also foster and crowding in with the public, because the venture capital, as you can see from the numbers, is always the weakness of the European Union, but and also the country, because it's not only about the funding, it's about culture. It's about also success. US, Anglo-Saxon they respect who wins. In Europe, sometimes if you fail is the bigger problem than the life. So this is the cultural thing. This is also the issue how to create this system. But what we are seeing the several different paces of the economies, specifically also creation per country few unicorns, and this is something that gives the peer-to-peer push and motivation for the others, because when they see that somebody succeeded, and this ecosystem is also going now, I think, in a positive spiral, that former exit investors now reinvesting in their community. So this is something that is quite good and interesting. In order to reach, of course, the biggest topic now, AI, we have to come back that we have to build infrastructure that will allow, because when we are sometimes talking about digitalization, we are still on the way that we are even doing the document management, So I'm signing still many papers in the ministry regarding the basic stuff, and in order to be there for AI, we have to first digital input, we have to have big data, we have to big infrastructure in the data centers and the cloud that can, of course, keep all this data, and few strong, at least scientists that you can employ in the government in order to further build and know what we'll do with that data, and of course the balance of the protection. Because we also saw the recent penalty to Meta by European Union. We're talking about 1.2 billion. And that bill will be more expensive because, of course, unfortunately, internet was, I think, idea was to have fragmentation and the free access to all, but now we have the concentration of few big, which is struggling and strangling the new competitors, but still we have the global scaling and the entry is still there for the smaller company. So for me, on this topic, for timing.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will start with the target, because you asked about the target. I will start with the public administration target. For us, I represent the Ministry of Research, Innovation and Digitalization. We like to say it's Ministry of Future. We have to create regulation for the future. So our target for digitalization in public administration is to have every public service available on the front of a device, electronic device. That's the first step. After this, going to artificial intelligence part, it's interesting. I am a machine learning engineer on my education base. It's interesting. The revolution wasn't on the artificial intelligence. If we go deeper, was on using cloud system and having the big data part, because for artificial intelligence you need processing power, data sets, and models as final result. So we had cloud part, we have data sets. Also, it was a big move from Google launching the TensorFlow framework. It was a game changer for all the industry. And for future, in this part of artificial intelligence, is very important, as Minister of Education, Science, Technology and Innovation in Kosovo said, on the educational part. We need to explain, to have artificial intelligence in education not as a tool, as a curricula, explaining to students what it is and how it works. Because everyone is creating scenarios about science fictional part, but it's just math, as my panel colleague said. It's just math. If we talk about convolutional neural network, is replicating how the brain is working. If we go to there are a lot of math algorithms we're using. We say about decisional trees. So in this part, it's very important to have the artificial intelligence in the educational process. Also on the regulation part, because now in European Union it's a long debate about AI, Artificial Intelligence Act. It's very important to find the balance between security and innovation, because in European Union we still want, and it's normal, it's very important to have startups in this field of artificial intelligence, and we have to create the right framework for them for their development part. But also we need to be sure the cybersecurity part, the data privacy is in a safe zone, and also we can merge that domains between artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. For example, in projects. I remember my master's degree project was finding malicious URLs using machine learning. So we can create solutions using this part. Also, I will go back on the public administration part, and after this I will have a conclusion. Also in the public administration part, it wasn't just the pandemic part. It was also the technology advanced part, because we talk about REST APIs in public administration. Also the collaboration part, because and dialogue, because we said on the panel, we had in last 10 years a lot of open source frameworks. So Until, I don't know, 15 years ago, we had just compiled solutions. Now we have frameworks, I don't know, Python frameworks, PHP frameworks, a lot of open source solutions, and that was also a game changer. So for the future, we need to see what domains will be merged and to find the right balance between innovation and security. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, Ms. Judith, yes.
Thank you. Well, I'm just thinking, trying to go back to your question and say, in public administration, you have to have a short-term, medium-term, long-term planning. So when you produce your document 10 years, 10-year perspective is kind of wow. You plan for 10 years. So far we have documents, we have umbrella documents which are valid up to 2030, produced 3 years ago, already to most part obsolete. So that much about that. So it's a flexibility, but before flexibility and ability to recognize and detect and recognize and be flexible to adjust and adapt and to recognize documents as a living document, whatever strategy you have adopted once. It takes a lot of time, but it is, as soon as you adopt it, I would be free and say it is ready to be again reassessed and eventually advanced. For that, I'm not considering, even though I have a political position, I don't consider myself a typical politician because I'm a machine engineer by background with experience in project management and working in the ministry which deals with funding, where you have to be able to sort out yourself functioning by milestones and physical and financial indicators, otherwise you fail. So for that, I would say the precondition is to have a political stability. Because if you function that way, even in public administration, each change takes time and slows you down, even though you have long-term documents and strategies. So we are in a technological era where development goes really fast. We have to ensure that each part of our country, of our region, has the same starting point or same opportunity to develop and to reach. We have to be flexible enough to recognize that and then give each part its small portion of freedom to go ahead and take up its stake, which is not easy. Yeah. You say you recognize it, but then in the environment you function, you have to be able to, and you are forced to compromise many times. And while we do that, the technology again swipes us away, which is normal. So again, we're coming back to what I said first. You have to be flexible enough to look out of the box, however strange it might sound. And then yet another thing, social compact is something that we tend to forget or tend to put aside because technology pushes us ahead. There has to be a balance, and we have to keep on thinking what is happening with the human rights, with the human dimension, and how we think about human development and human capital, after all, which has to follow the technology development. Otherwise, none of our strategies, no matter how fast they are adopted, no matter how modern and advanced they are, if there is no social component to it to implement it, will be no-brainer document, if I might be open and say that way, because how will you implement whatever you strategically planned if you don't have a capacity and human capital to do it? On the other hand, artificial intelligence, the technology forces us to be more speed, faster than we are, definitely, and to be more flexible and more open to whatever comes in. You take it, you recognize it, and take your chance, and otherwise we'll be stuck with strictly planned documents if we are not able to be fast. And then I'll just point out one more thing. I am in regional development, so Croatia is having, luckily, 1,245 small islands, not all small, but islands, and we are very proud of them. This is a specific part of the country, the most beautiful part of the country. I hope nobody else hears me say, since I'm not an islander, but still. On the other hand, you have to think 3 times ahead of time to be able to recognize what is needed there, what has to be done, how fast it has to be done to be able to enable equal quality standard for the people living in an isolated area, to be able to preserve it, as simple as that. Because we can be as much as advanced as we have, if we don't have a basic infrastructure, satisfied basic living needs in the smallest part of whatever country. I just took an example now of the island part of the country. For those who have islands, they'll understand even better. It doesn't work. Because we have very urbanized, very modern, very high-speed internet-provided urban centers, urban parts of the country. But as long as we don't have at least something similar everywhere, we won't be strong and resilient enough to whatever comes. The pandemic, I think, was, I would say it was a testing for all of us, how fast we are in recognizing our shortcomings, recognizing our opportunities, and using our opportunities. And if we didn't learn from all that we've gone through in that period, that would be the biggest fail. Otherwise, whatever we have learned from that period and turn it into something new, that's already a good start and good advancement. So that's for me for now. Thank you.
Ms. Victor?
Just a couple of points from the OECD side to add up on this important discussion about the competition and digitalization, and especially the big countries like US or China vis-a-vis Europe. I totally agree that in Europe we should not compromise any of our high standards with regards to data protection. At the same time, I think also international organizations like the OECD or perhaps even the Council of Europe and others, I think we play also quite an important role in order to sort of, as a platform and as a standard-setting organization. Because these are then commonly adopted rules and standards that are applied not only in one country, so there's a disadvantage perhaps created in one part of the world, and an advantage created in the other part of the world. And even in the area of digitalization or in artificial intelligence, we have these tools already available. They're fairly recent, but we have the artificial intelligence principles that are also adopted by the US, for example, that have put a high premium on data protection, that put a high premium on really inclusive growth, on really human-centered value, that all the things that have been mentioned right now. So it doesn't really go loosely one by one, but it's based on common principles and approaches. And there are a number of other very important declarations that also governments have put in place. Just for example, just recently the governments across the world adopted the OECD Declaration on a Trusted, Sustainable and Inclusive Digital Future, just to give a bit of a positive outlook on a common approach of dealing with these issues. And perhaps one final point also to say here that the OECD plays also a role in the G20, so all the dealing with China, Russia, India, Brazil, etc. The instruments that are developed are also part of the discussion and contributions in the big leaders meeting in the G20. So all these commonly based rules also promoted there. So hopefully there will be less competition and regulation and advantage taking in that sense.
Yes, I also want to just compliment what a colleague from OSCE said, that we don't compromise on values, no matter which artificial intelligence will lead the world in the future and current. We will still keep the human aspect and have people involved in controlling it. I wanted to go one little step behind. It is about digital literacy in our region, because we are talking about Southeast Europe and Balkans. In particular aspect on public bodies and state authorities. I think that digital literacy now has totally new meaning. It is not anymore to know to handle computer or have internet connection. It is also to go paperless in communication with other state bodies or citizens. I think that COVID pandemic has made or provoked big change for a good and in positive direction, but there are still some, let's say, draggings in the systems of member states where different ministries or different public bodies are still using the papers and not switching completely to digital world. I think switching to digital is precondition to employ artificial intelligence and everything. And just to give you a little episode, in one of the member states we have been digging like deep due diligence of regulatory framework and seeing who is basically still using papers and who is gone on paperless. Of course, businesses and lawyers, they are mandatory users, so they are gone on the systems and sending all in digital versions, but state authorities are the ones who are dragging behind. So I think a strong message from here is that those who are making digital reforms also needs to apply on themselves.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very good point. As we climb the ladder of digital transformation and AI, we should not forget not to compromise our values. I would suggest to continue with the last question in the coffee break, if you are okay, so that we stay, so that we're fine with time. Thank you very much, all. We will have a 15 minutes break, and then we'll continue with our next session on and the green energy transition. Thank you.